Reading of Genesis chapter 4 verses 1 to 26. And Adam knew Eve his wife, and she conceived, and bare Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from Yahweh. And she again bare his brother Abel. And Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. And in process of time it came to pass, that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto Yahweh. And Abel, he also brought of the firstlings of his flock and of the fat thereof. And Yahweh had respect unto Abel and to his offering. But unto Cain and to his offering he had not respect. And Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. And Yahweh said unto Cain, Why art thou wroth? And why is thy countenance fallen? If thou doest well, shalt thou not be accepted? And if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door. And unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. And Cain talked with Abel his brother, and it came to pass, when they were in the field, that Cain rose up against Abel his brother, and slew him. And Yahweh said unto Cain, Where is Abel thy brother? And he said, I know not, am I my brother's keeper? And he said, What hast thou done? The voice of thy brother's blood crieth unto me from the ground. And now art thou cursed from the earth, which hath opened her mouth to receive thy brother's blood from thy hand. When thou tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto thee her strength, a fugitive and a vagabond shalt thou be in the
fruit of the ground. As Cain and Abel were growing into adulthood, as by now each one of them had chosen their individual paths or careers, so to say. Cain became a farmer of the ground. Abel became a shepherd of the flock. Some deep insight into their chosen individual professions. Torah commentators bring out this point that the occupation of a shepherd symbolically represents a profession that allows time for contemplation or thinking about Elohim. When the sheep are busy grazing in the fields, the shepherd gets lots of time to admire nature and the creative landscapes of Elohim. Whereas a tiller of the land is extremely busy working hard on the land so that it bears him a good harvest. Abel as the shepherd could always look up towards the open skies, whereas Cain the farmer had to always pay attention downwards to the soil and earth. Adam and Eve's communication with the children about the Garden of Eden. By now, their parents, that is Adam and Eve, must have explained to their children Cain and Abel in sufficient detail about how they disobeyed Elohim Yahweh in the Garden of Eden and how they ate from the forbidden tree of knowledge of good and bad. In this connection they must have even communicated to both Cain and Abel the first prophecy that Elohim Yahweh pronounced in the Garden of Eden before expelling them from there is recorded in Genesis chapter 3 verse 15. I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and her offspring. He will bruise your head, and you will bruise his heel. Of your face fallen. If you do well, will it not be lifted up? If you don't do well, sin crouches at the door. Its desire is for you, but you are to rule over it. We can clearly see that much ahead and in sufficient advance at the time of the offering itself. Elohim Yahweh lovingly warns Cain that sin was crouching at his door like a wild animal, and gives sufficient and advance warning to Cain much before he murders his own brother in cold blood. Elohim Yahweh gives Cain a chance to regret and repent and ask humbly for assistance or help. He could have simply asked Elohim Yahweh as to why his offering was not accepted, and then he could have done a re-offering with a change of heart, mind and circumstances. Elohim gave a forewarning, and thus Cain had a chance and choice to pay heed to Yahweh's advance warning. But what did Cain do? Cain had the capability to back answer Yahweh by questioning the creator of the universe back with a taunting question. Yahweh said to Cain, "Where is Abel, your brother?" Cain responds, "I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper?" Cain responded to Elohim Yahweh's question by asking, "Am I my brother's keeper?" which in Hebrew is Hashamarachi Anuki. Over here Cain chose a strange word for I, Inuki, Anoki. Jewish commentators on this Torah word explained that the word Inuki is the same word for I that Elohim Yahweh used to refer to himself at the beginning of the Ten Commandments. In other words, Cain was really saying, "Isn't Elohim Abel's keeper?" Surely before this incident of the first murder of humankind, Elohim Yahweh must have been regularly communicating and guiding both Cain and Abel. Yahweh must be explaining what kind of faith is acceptable to him and what is not. Hebrews chapter 11 verse 5. Please note Cain and Abel's offering was not a sin offering. It was just a plain offering to Elohim. Now let's get back to a small incident in the Garden of Eden. Since Elohim Yahweh noted it down in his Torah, actually nothing, not even a tiny word or incident, is small. Everything is very important. That's why Elohim Yahweh inspired it to be in the Hebrew scriptures or Torah. On gaining the independent ability to decide and chose good or bad for themselves, what was the first understanding or decision of Adam and Eve after the sin of disobedience? On eating the fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and bad, the very first decision taken by Adam and Eve, right or wrong, let's see, was that they decided that certain private body parts of theirs, such as the breasts and vagina and penis area, they together on their own judgment now decided and came to an immediate conclusion that it was something bad or something to be ashamed of. So they gathered leaves of plants or trees and stitched organic garments for themselves to hide their nakedness. So Adam was the first tailor in the Bible who stitched garments for himself and his wife, but with leaves. Genesis chapter 3 verse 7 reads, "The eyes of both of them were opened, and they knew that they were naked. They sewed fig leaves together and made themselves aprons." Sin, as we all know now, denotes the act or state of missing the mark. The original sense of New Testament Greek word hamartia, hamartia. Sin is failure, being in error, missing the mark of perfection. Both Adam and Eve showed that both of them now, with the ability of deciding what is good and what is bad, were not capable of choosing or deciding accurately. They missed the mark of perfection. They decided wrongly that they were naked. So now, when Elohim Yahweh approached them to hide their sin, they made a covering or clothes made up of leaves and plants to hide their nakedness. Elohim Yahweh, the second tailor after Adam. The book of Genesis mentions chapter 3 verse 21 that Elohim Yahweh made coats of skins for Adam and for his wife and clothed them. When Adam and Eve sinned, Elohim Yahweh for the very first time had to sacrifice an animal's life so that he could proceed to make garments of skin to clothe Adam and Eve. Thus, due to Adam's sin, death had already entered into the animal kingdom by this first animal sacrifice. It was not acceptable and permissible and possible according to Elohim Yahweh that leaves or plants could be an accurate sin covering for the sins of the fleshly human Adam and Eve. In his divine wisdom, he foreshadowed the perfect human sacrifice of his son Yahshua for all of humankind's sin, including Adam and Eve too. Hence Elohim Yahweh kills or sacrifices some animal to make coats of skins for Adam and Eve to wear as a covering for their sin. The above story must have been duly told and repeated to their children, that is, Cain and Abel, by both Adam and Eve. So even though it was just a plain offering and not a sin offering, still Abel, out of his good intelligence or wisdom, or remembering his communication with Yahweh, or recollecting the above story of how Elohim Yahweh made animal skins clothing for his parents Adam and Eve to cover their sins in the Garden of Eden. So out of faith and deep insight, Abel thought out of his own convictions that offering an animal or blood sacrifice will be appreciated by Elohim Yahweh. There was no need of an animal sacrifice. But by this, Abel was communicating to his Elohim Yahweh that he understands and appreciates that Elohim will provide a perfect sin offering in the future for all of their sins. About Cain's offering of fruit of the ground. Please note in verse 3 of chapter 4 of Genesis, Elohim just mentions that Cain gave an offering. No mention that it was of first fruits. No mention that it was the best of fruits. Nothing. Just an offering of fruit of the ground. The owner of everything in this universe is actually the Creator. Elohim Yahweh created everything on this planet Earth. He is not in need of things of the earth. The offering of Cain and Abel was in effect an offering of thanksgiving and giving gratitude to Elohim Yahweh for blessing the work and effort of their hands. Numbers chapter 18 verse 13. There was nothing wrong with offering Elohim the produce that one has grown. Elohim even accepts grains and fruits of the fields, as can be read in Exodus chapter 13 verses 11 to 16 and Numbers chapter 3 verses 45 to 48 and chapter 18 verses 13 to 19. Cain's intent or heart was not good with the offering of the fruit of the ground. We are expressly told in Hebrews chapter 11 verse 4 that Abel's was the more excellent sacrifice because offered in faith. It was the state of their hearts that made the difference, though as the result of unbelief Cain's may have been a scanty present of common produce and not of first fruits. While Abel brought firstlings, and of the fat thereof the choicest portion. Abel may also have shown a deeper faith in the promised deliverer by offering an animal sacrifice, firstborn of his flock and of its fat. Numbers chapter 18 verse 15 reads, Everything that opens the womb of all flesh which they offer to Yahweh, both of man and animal, shall be yours. He shall offer from it as his offering an offering made by fire to Yahweh, the fat that covers the innards, and all the fat that is on the innards, and the 2 kidneys, and the fat that is on them which is by the loins, and the cover on the liver with the kidneys, he shall take away. The priest shall burn them on the altar. It is the food of the offering made by fire, for a pleasant aroma. All the fat is Yahweh's. It shall be a perpetual statute throughout your generations in all your dwellings, that you shall eat neither fat nor blood. What a big and striking coincidence or chance or luck that Abel decided. We do not know how and why he decided this, to offer all the fats of the animal to Elohim Yahweh. This is way along back in time, before the ceremonial laws of food offerings were given to the Israelites. Another point of interest. Cain saw that his brother Abel's sacrifice was accepted and his sacrifice was not. So by now Cain has definitely realized that Yahweh appreciated an animal's blood sacrifice. Instead of correcting and reverting himself to offering a repeat second animal sacrifice, he starts plotting or planning to murder his own blood brother. Cain said to Abel, his brother, "Let's go into the field," as recorded in Genesis chapter 4 verse 8. By killing his brother in cold blood and by spilling Abel's innocent blood on the land or the fields. He in bloodshot anger made the whole field or earth into an altar, and in total rebellion or retaliation into an illegal altar by offering blood sacrifice of a human being and not an animal this time. It was like Cain saying through his act or crime, "So Yahweh, you like animal blood sacrifices, okay. So now I offer you something better than an animal." That's why in Genesis it is recorded as, Yahweh said, "What have you done? The voice of your brother's blood cries to me from the ground." Genesis chapter 4 verse 10. So to conclude in brief, Elohim Yahweh looks at both the content of the offering and, more importantly, at the intent of the offering. Rather at the heart intent of the person making the offering. Cain's offering failed on many grounds. It was not the first fruits of his produce. It was not the best of his produce. He saw his brother Abel offering something different and better, but he did not take suggestions or guidance either from brother Abel or Elohim Yahweh or even his parents Adam and Eve. Plus, he did not make timely corrections or changes in his offering to Elohim Yahweh. How do we know this? If you do well, will it not be lifted up? Says Yahweh, Genesis chapter 4 verse 7 to Cain. So according to Elohim Yahweh, Abel did not do well in his offering. By faith, Abel offered to Elohim a more excellent sacrifice than Cain, through which he had testimony given to him that he was righteous, Elohim testifying with respect to his gifts, and through it he being dead still speaks. Hebrews chapter 11 verse 4.